endorsing any candidate. This is strictly for the voting public to be able to get information, to make their decisions. Okay? In the meantime, Kenneth, would you offer a prayer for us? We'll open this up and go.
Father, we thank you for your love and mercy. We thank you for your grace this evening, God, and I thank you for every gentleman and lady that are here tonight. Thank you for the safety and travel here. Father, I pray that as we hear tonight, God, that you will just give clarity, Father. We thank you for the opportunities, the freedoms that this nation affords us, to be able to have a forum like this, to hear from candidates. And so, God, we give you all the glory tonight. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, the way this is going to work, the candidates will stay on stage. We're going to start with those running for the Senate, and then we're going to move to the House. This is all done in accordance with the ballot draw that Hale County did at the time. So there's no, it's already, the speaking order's already been drawn by the ballot draw. After that, we'll probably take a 10-minute break. We're going to hear from all of them first. After that, we'll probably take a 10-minute break, and when we come back, it will be the audience turn, and you, the audience, can ask questions of any one of the candidates at that point. Okay? Whatever it is. So, listen to what they have to say. Think about what they're saying, and then go ahead and ask the questions that you want to ask. That's okay. The other thing is, this will be recorded, and if you want to get copies of it, talk with Kimmett. As a matter of fact, Kimmett will tell you right now how this really goes.
Well, I'll also throw in a disclaimer that this United Assembly of God is not representing one candidate. We are just offering this as a public announcement or open forum. And so it is being live fed on our church's live feed on YouTube. And if you leave me name and information afterwards, I'll be able to help you to be able to find that and get a copy.
All right. Gary House is going to be doing the roll call and getting you guys organized as far as speaking.
The timer's going to work. If not, I have to do it on my
You all there, Gary?
Because since we throw all this at you.
Yeah, I know some of these guys.
That's what I was afraid of.
That's what you're afraid of, yes. Okay, the first one on the list is Virgil John Verschwell. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name. Virgil John Verschwell. Okay. Okay, we have someone here for Senator John Cornyn.
Is Ms. Stone here? I'm sorry?
No, sir, I didn't go because
sorry?
I'm not,
Oh, you're not?
I'm not
Okay.
allowed to go.
All right, she's not allowed to.
Oh, she's not allowed.
Person and ethics rules on my way, so there needs to represent them. I'm not on the head of steps right now.
Okay. Oh, well, that one's not here.
Wesley Hunt?
I can see it.
Anna Bender? What about Gus Hahn?
Yes, sir.
Finally, there you go.
Yeah, so next one, I'll raise my hand.
You want to take it off?
Yes. 5 minutes. Timer will be in the screen.
Thank you to the Hale County Republican Party, South Plains Republican Women for hosting us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Gulrez Khan. Everybody fondly calls me Gus. I'm a candidate for the United States Senate for our great state of Texas in the upcoming Republican primary taking place in March 2026. I'm a small business owner, live in Lubbock, Texas, lived there for over 25 years now. I co-own a healthcare company called American Star Home Health and Hospice Care. We serve patient populations, especially geriatric patient population in West Texas and North Texas. We are in 73 counties. Also, I've been a part of the Lubbock County Republican Party for several years now. I ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2024 from Texas, District 32, Dallas, Denton, and Collin counties. I ran for mayor of Lubbock on a conservative platform in 2022. 2020 and 2024, I got elected as a national delegate. It was my honor to share the floor with President Donald J. Trump in Wisconsin, Milwaukee in 2024. Last year, I got a chance to attend President Trump's inauguration. So all this combined has inspired me to run for U.S. Senate. My fellow patriots, as an America First, as a Texas First candidate, I support term limits, I support education reform, I support our military and veterans, I support our farmers and ranchers, oil workers, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, small business owners. However, tonight I'm going to focus on one main issue, which is healthcare reform. I have labeled it as healthcare revival my way. I'm the only candidate on this senatorial ballot with over 15 years of experience in healthcare management. For the past 5.5 years, I've owned this home health and hospice care. I have managed wound care and hyperbaric medicine clinics in Texas. I have managed a hospitalist group, family medicine, primary care medicine clinics. I worked in hospital systems, surgical care systems, so I really know where the gaps are. Friends, in the last 20 years, 25 rural Texas hospitals have been shut down. You know how many more are about to shut down in rural Texas? 103 hospitals. Studies show whenever such a hospital in rural Texas shuts down, the mortality rate in those areas goes up by 8.7%. This is another pandemic, and no senatorial federal legislator talks about it. These towns are called hospital deserts. Similarly, in the pharmacy world, there are local pharmacies that have been shut down, and on average, people who live in those towns, they have to drive 70 miles just to go to a hospital or just to go to a pharmacy. This is unacceptable. Next is reimbursements. The reimbursement rates that physicians, hospitals, nursing homes, home-based care, rehab hospitals receive from Medicare Advantage and private insurances are peanuts. For example, if your reimbursement visit for taking care of a patient is $100, the cost is $180 or $190. So that way, the physicians or those facilities are not able to sustain quality staff, meet operational costs. So what happens in the end? They leave the patient stranded, or the patients get short end of the stick. Palliative care, there's zero investment in palliative care. And when it comes to hospice care, if a patient has lived on that hospice beyond a year, you have to return that money to Medicare. Why? Because Medicare is implying that how in the world did that patient not die within a year?
CMS regulations need to
change as well. So and similarly, I support lower premiums, cutting down the middlemen. That way we all have a lower premium. And lastly, I always say when I ran for Congress or mayor or national delegate, I was born and raised in India. I'm blessed to be an American. I believe the greatest blessing that God can shower upon anyone is to have been born in the United States of America. I was born here. I would have conquered the world by now. It's not that I'm great, America is great. And America is great due to its foundational conservative freedom, limited government, and a free market enterprise structure, not due to communism or socialism. And the best thing about America, the native-born Americans, y'all are the most tolerant and accepting people anywhere. And ladies and gentlemen, my story is possible nowhere else. It's not possible in Russia, or China, or Sweden, or Poland. It's possible only in one magic place, the United States of America. I really appreciate your vote, support, and prayers. God bless you all, God bless Texas, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
up, we have Ryan Zink. And on deck will be Mr. Barbie, James Barbie. Okay.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Zink. I'm a congressional candidate for House 19 here in Lubbock, Texas. But we're not in Lubbock tonight. We're out here in beautiful Plainview. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my story, about why I feel like I'm qualified to run.
The last 5 years, 5 years as of yesterday, was the anniversary of when the feds drove through the front of my house for being at the Capitol on January 6th. For that, I was beaten and tortured. My wife and I had 2 miscarriages from the stress of going what we went through. I fought for the last 5 years in federal court, gone all the way to the Supreme Court with the United States versus Fisher case, and won. Had my charges dismissed and then was pardoned first by my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and then my president, Donald J. Trump. I traveled all across this nation during that time preaching the Word of God and talking to people about the importance of making sure that we do not lose federal elections at the local level by putting people into power that would ruin this country. And that's one of the things that I'd like to continue as I go on. We have lots of local issues that we have to look at. We have to look at a new and a modern farm bill. It's time to stop putting a Band-Aid on something that requires surgery. We have got to go in and completely redo the way that we look. We should move back to biblical principles of farming with regeneration, not to mention the pricing. Start working with our allies. We need to have protections for retaliatory tariffs that come in from countries because they are our enemies. Anybody that comes up against us with retaliatory tariffs that hurts this district, they are not working for us, they are working against us. So another thing that I'm very passionate about that we have to do is we have to secure America. We have to finish securing the border. We have to get rid of the Islamic invasion that's coming into our country. There is a very, very wide berth that Islam allows for, but the Christian principles that America was founded on do not stand for any of that. Islam is currently a form of slavery. I will do everything in my power to protect our great American women from becoming slaves to Sharia law. So when we look at the district as a whole for Congressional District 19, we're unique in itself. We're a highly Republican district. We're a very Christian values district. And what does that mean when we see very well is what we are right now, the ecclesia, the body, the church. Only 12% of American Christians right now are voting. If we can get every church in America to go out and vote and to get people elected into office who maintain Christian values, we will take a revival to this country like it has never been seen before. Some other issues of the district that I personally would like to focus on is accountability. We have not seen a lot of accountability lately. I spent 4 years being absolutely tortured by the Biden administration for never going into a building, never assaulting anyone, and never damaging anything. Only speaking and protecting police officers on the east porch of the United States Capitol. For that, nobody from the Biden administration has been arrested. It's time to get rid of corrupt federal judges who are appointed, not voted in. We need to set limitations on our 3-letter agencies that allow them to come into our lives and quantify us using artificial intelligence. That's a big one coming for the district. Yes, it's very vital that we stay in the race so that we can defeat our enemies, because if we look back at Argentina and the way that we went and used our military to go and kidnap a president of another country, which I think is one of the most awesome things that I've ever seen in my entire life. The United States military did that. We have to make sure that we stay ahead of it. But when AI was being used against me, it classified me as a white Christian nationalist, and then they tried to use that same technology to come and take my children. Now, my wife and I having 2 miscarriages in that during that stressful period, if I had to go and marry my wife in a church just like this under the cover of darkness with my pastor and his wife as the witness, it's very romantic to think about now, but we were scared to death standing in that moment because they were trying to use CPS to come and grab my beautiful Zaylee from us. This is the very same thing that can happen to you if we do not have accountability. So in that quest of everything, which 5 minutes is just not enough when you're running for a district as awesome as this one, we have to step up and we have to have accountability. And I want to do that for each and every single one of you. I want to fight for this district. I want to carry that fight of victories that I've had in my personal life and utilize the House floor also to preach and spread the word across the nation, because without being under the protection of the Father, America will never prosper. And that is a truth that you can take home. If you guys need a copy of the Constitution or a Bible, it's located. Please come talk to me afterwards, and I'd love to have you. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Mr. Barbie, you're up. Mr. Corley, you're on deck.
Good evening. My name's James Bob Barbie. I too am a small business owner out of Abilene, Texas. I run my own electrical contracting business. I hold 4 licenses with the state of Texas. I'm a master electrician, got electrical contractor license, state fire alarm technician, and I'm also a state fire sprinkler inspector. Now I'm here because I had an uncle who taught me civics in high school, and he said, if you have the ability to help your country, then you have the obligation to help your country. So that's one of the main reasons I'm here. Now, I'm funding my own campaign. I haven't asked for any donations. I haven't received any donations because I believe that money has corrupted the political process, and that's why voter turnout is so low. So I'm trying to set an example where you don't have to go out and raise thousands of dollars. You just have to hit the road and meet people. Hopefully it'll work out. I want to say that no matter who you choose to represent you in Washington, I pray that they'll remember these 2 things. It's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. And do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think those 2 things would make anyone a good politician. And the Lord charged us with, love ye one another as I have loved you. Now that's a pretty tall order. It's rough. I strive every day to get there, but I'll promise you I fall short, as I believe most people do. But I believe this because I believe this is the only way we're going to make America great again. When you start loving your neighbor as yourself, then America will be great again. Until then, it's not going to be. Now, I have a health care plan. My health care plan extends Medicare to every citizen in this country as an insurance. If you're under the age of 65, you'll purchase it just like any other health care insurance. Government broke our health care, and they're going to have to fix it. And the only way we can is to get in the market. This will make these private insurance companies bring their prices down. If we don't do that, I don't care what we do. We've just seen us, government send $1 trillion to the insurance companies again to lower the cost by 4% for 7% of the people that are on Obamacare. That's not a fix. They've raised prices by 200% since the inaction of Obamacare. I've got a tax reform plan. My tax reform plan says we do away with income tax and go to a flat federal sales tax. So every citizen and non-citizen and visitor in this country pays that tax. It'll more than double our tax base. And what's this do? It brings new revenue into the government. For the first time in 250 years, they're going to be earning money through this insurance plan instead of taxing you and taking your hard-earned money. Now, you're still going to have a tax to pay, but this is going to free up those tax dollars to take care of supplementing some of the plans that they don't deem to be mandatory. Thank you.
Mr. Corley, you're up next. And Mr. Enriquez, you here? He's not here? Okay. Then Mr. Sell. You were representing Mr. Enriquez? Okay. You're on deck.
Folks, my name is Jason Corley. Thank you all for being here tonight. I am a Christian, a husband, and a father first. But for the last 7 years, I've served as the Lubbock County Commissioner for Precinct 2. In that 7 years, I could tell you a lot of interesting stories, and man, I've seen a lot of things I never thought I would see in local government. I thought that went on in Washington. I thought that went on in Austin. You know, I thought getting removed from your seat by a judge, by a liberal judge, I thought that only happened in, I thought Donald Trump had those problems. I never thought that would happen to me as a county commissioner. But you know what? We've got that stuff here. We have that in little old West Texas. We have that down in Austin. We have that down in Washington. But I'm here to tell you that, you know, I've been there, I've done that, I've got the scars, and I bought the t-shirt. So, you know, I've been proud to stand up for the people of Precinct 2. You know, I represent 75,000 people right now as a county commissioner. And one of the things that I've always done is give people my personal cell phone number. And when I first did that, somebody said, oh my God, they're all going to call you. If you represent 75,000 people, don't worry, only 75 of them will ever call you every other day, and it'll be the same 75. But you know, that's kind of how it goes in government. But you know, these things that I always thought that were, you know, issues that you would see, you know, at the national stage or the state stage, no, they're right here. They're here in your local, right here in our communities too. So sometimes we point at government, we're like, I don't know why they do that. Why are they like that? What's going on up there? Guys, here's the problem. Our government is a reflection of us. I mean, it's not us, but it's certainly a reflection of us. I mean, how much debt does the national government have? Does our federal government have? How many trillions of dollars? Well, how much debt do we have, you know, does the average American have? You know, you start looking at this thing and, man, some days it's an ugly reflection of what we see in the mirror. So when we start talking about change in this nation, where does that change begin? It doesn't start from the podium. It starts from the pulpit. It starts here in our churches. It starts here in our communities. If you want to see that change in Washington, D.C., you know, we're going to have to change here locally, and that's how that reflection is going to start to shift and start to change. Now, all that being said, as I've got had 7 years of experience of you know, representing my constituents and fighting for what was important for them, one of the things I want to point out to you that we see, you know, at the national level, spending is always going to be there. The federal government's going to spend whatever it's going to spend. As your next congressman, what my plan to do is to, you know, we've got some good people over there in Jody's office, but I want to staff that office with grant writers. Lubbock County is the 17th largest county in the entire state, and we don't have a grant writer on staff. So what could we be doing with that? Well, we've got all the demographics, you've got all the numbers, you got the list of all the different grants the federal government puts out. We need to be going through there and seeing, okay, you know, checking those boxes. What can we qualify for? And go ahead and get that money spent here locally. Now, while we're doing that, we still got some other things we've got to look at on trying to get that spending down. Because when you go around the district and you ask people, what's the number one issue? What's the biggest problem you've got? If I'm talking to somebody over 65, we're gonna be talking about the price of health care, the price of drugs at the pharmacy. If I'm talking to somebody who farms, we're gonna be talking about the input costs that the farmer's having to pay for. If I'm talking to somebody who's 18, you know, housing affordability becomes the next question. But we're all asking this question, how are we going to afford to do this? You know, what happened? How did we get ourselves here? Well, you know, it's inflation. We all know it's inflation. Where does inflation come from? Printing more money, you know. I think there's a Schoolhouse Rock song that explains this pretty well. I think we ought to be showing it in the foyer of Congress every single day in case everybody forgot. But, you know, how do you stop that stuff? Well, you know, if we're going to go right to the root of the problem, let's start with the Fed. You know, a lot of people, you know, we kick that around. You say in the Fed, you know, that's a bumper sticker. If you talk to somebody and they're telling you their political solution, if it fits on a bumper sticker, it's not really a solution. So if we're going to deal with that, first things first, the Fed does three things right now. They're worried about unemployment, they're worried about price stabilization, and they're worried about inflation. You need to take two of those away. Let them only worry about what price stabilization and go from there. But I'm getting the 1 minute warning. So once again, my name is Jason Corley. Would be proud to serve as your congressman. My cell phone number is 806-577-9778. It's on all the literature and everything at Lubbock County. So feel free to give me a call. Any questions you have. Also, you can go to the website jasoncorley4texas.com. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wood.
I'm sorry? I'm Aiden,
You're
representing Abraham.
yes. Okay, I'm sorry, I had Wood down here. Okay, for Mr. Enriquez, and then Tom Sell. Anyone here for Tom? They're right there. Okay, all right. Okay. Cody, I can't see. You know that. Okay. All right, Cody, you're on next on deck.
Hey y'all, thank y'all for being here. I am not Abraham, but I've had the privilege to get to know him on this campaign trail. I'm a student at Texas Tech, and I have the honor of being able to represent him up on the stage today. Abraham Enriquez is a first-generation American. His grandparents actually migrated here under Ronald Reagan's Impresario Act. They came over here to West Texas. They were farm workers and dishwashers. They used that money to put themselves through school to learn English. They came here to West Texas in our community, and they adopted our values. They lived the American dream, and for Abraham to be able to run for Congress is just such an honor and it's just what our American culture is about. It's the American dream. They actually came here and learned about the Word of God, and it's a little embarrassing to say, but on this campaign trail, I've been to church more often than since I came to college. And that's more of a testament to his personality and his faith than anything else, I believe. It's been, great reconnecting with that side of me. When Abraham was 24, he started an organization. It was a Hispanic outreach organization called Bienvenido. And to this day, they have helped register over 1 million new Republican voters in the Hispanic community. He was instrumental in winning President Trump the Hispanic vote. And because of his accomplishments there, he was invited to be an official surrogate to the Trump administration 1 and Trump administration 2. He has been able to cultivate relationships with many of the cabinet members under this current administration, including the Cabinet of Agriculture. He has been instrumental in getting policy across the finish line and is already doing the work of a congressman. He is the candidate that will be able to go in day one and be able to represent West Texan values and be able to get the work done. I will be around here to answer questions, be able to fully explain why Abraham is endorsed by Governor Greg Abbott, by Turning Point USA, by CPAC, by Project Destiny, and by the Texas House Chair of the Freedom Caucus and the Chair of the Maha Caucus. I'd like to invite y'all all to come to our West Texas rally this Saturday. Abraham's going to be speaking up there, as well as 7 of our Turning Point chapters here in West Texas. They're going to be there speaking on a panel, answering questions from the community. I really encourage you all to come and hear Abraham speak and hear the next generation of West Texas value leaders carrying on Charlie Kirk's legacy speak as well. Thank you.
Okay, Cody, you're up for Mr. Sell, and on deck is Matt Smith.
Kenneth, thank you and your church for opening it up to us. I think with the diverse crowd and in a house of worship is the perfect place to be having these discussions. I'm Cody Carson. I farm between Olton and Edmondson, and have had the pleasure of working with Tom Sell for several years. I have served as the chairman of the National Sorghum Producers for the U.S. I've sat on the U.S. Grains Council on their International Policy Committee. So I've been in D.C. some. When Tom asked me to do this, first of all, he wanted to apologize that he and Kyla could not be here. But he had a prior commitment in Abilene, and if Tom tells you he's going to be somewhere, he's going to be there. So he didn't bow out of that, but he would have loved to have been here and sends his warmest regards. When he asked me to do this, there's not many candidates that I'm going to put myself on the line for that are running for office, but I didn't have to give this a second thought. I visited with a lot of these gentlemen behind me, and I could go through the same thing that they have, as how much West Texas means to Tom, how he's a family man. Family is so important. He's a Christian. They're tied to West Texas. He believes in Texas Tech and all the education, centers of higher learning that we have. His mother was a Scarborough, north of Petersburg. Kyla's mom and dad were from Lockney and Lasbuddy. I mean, they have ties to this. So what differentiates him? All I can go off is my personal experience. The first time I was ever in D.C. with Tom, if you've been there, you know you go in and you shake hands with the representative or the senator, and you take the pictures and you do things. And they ask you what you want and what you need, but when that's over, they turn to Tom Sell and they said, how do we do this? How do we make it work? Tom understands policy. He understands the budget. He understands scoring. He understands how this works together. And after we had gone in several offices in the Senate and in the House, and everyone called him by name and everyone respected him, and I saw the admiration and the trust they had in him, I said, why aren't you my representative? He said, family is most important to me. My kids are at home. I'm where God called me. And when I feel led and I'm told that's where I need to be, and if I can be of service to my country, that's what I'll do. And I think that time is now. D.C. is a tough place. It's easy to get drawn into the limelight and the celebrity and the false sense of power. Tom has been up there long enough. If that would have drawn him in, he'd have already done it. But it hasn't. He is as steadfast and as moral and as level-headed as anyone I have ever seen, and I would back him 100%. You can say, well, he's been up there in D.C., so he's part of the problem. Well, I don't know that we want a politician. We want somebody new. That's like saying, I'm going to have surgery tomorrow, but I don't want a skilled surgeon. I want the new guy that's never done it. What you really don't want is someone up there that doesn't know what they're doing. But when you say you don't want a politician, what you really don't want is someone that's self-serving, that's doing it for themselves. You want someone that's doing it out of a sense of duty to their country and sacrifice to make our 19th Congressional District better. It's been mentioned about funding, and it's really hard to do it without funding. And it's hard to do it without endorsements, and they both have their place, and I understand that. But when I look at funding and endorsement, it's not what's happening there, it's where it's coming from. Who's endorsing you? A career politician that may need a favor on down the road? Where's your funding coming from? Is it coming from wealth and big PACs outside of our state or outside of this district? Take a look. This is all public record. Take a look and see who's endorsing the candidates. See where the funding is coming from. If it's your neighbor and your friend and your local small business and the organizations that are in this district, that's who they trust. That's where it comes from. The main reason that I want to tell you Tom is different, we have at best 2 years of the guarantee of this executive branch and a majority. If you go to D.C. as a new person, you're going to be drinking from the fire hose for a year and a half. You're not going to know which way is up, and they're all good and qualified people, but it's just a matter of how fast they can absorb it. Tom has worked for the House Ag Committee. He knows these people by name. They have trust. They have a relationship. He isn't going to waste a year and a half trying to get his legs under him. He's going to hit the ground running. He's going to do what we need. He's going to do what is best for District 19. And I had a staffer tell me he will be by de facto the authority in the House Ag Committee because he knows more than most of the people and staff up there now. Please go along with what I believe in all my heart. He's our candidate.
Mr. Smith, Matt Smith, and on deck is Donald May.
Yeah, thank you all so much for doing this. We are glad to be here, and I have never had any desire to be in part of politics because I see the corruption, I see the nastiness of it. I used to be in the oil field, and I would sit out on the job site babysitting a well for hours and hours and listening to talk radio. I got so sick of it because I would talk to everyone that I could, and it seemed like nothing changed. I would vote, I would talk, I would do things, and I continued to see the same corruption, the same problems. It isn't only the person that you put in there, but it's all of the bureaucratic system. When we have these three-letter agencies, we have all of these people that are enriching their self. I get sick of thinking about Pelosi going there and getting so rich. Why don't we enforce the laws that we already have? Like, we shouldn't be able to do insider trading. This is a no-brainer, and yet somehow they keep doing it. It's awful whenever people go get elected and then they go make more money. Where I'm at, oil field, I had to detox from listening to the talk radio. Spent 12 years, last 12 years, I was building my businesses. So we built Fat Mat Roofing. And with that, I see that this is more what our government looks like. It has holes all in it that we have got to patch. We've got to fix this, because if we have, no matter how much money, no matter what the resources are that come into it, it's going to continue to leak out until we fix the broken system. If we want to get the same thing that we've had, we need to keep sending people the same way that we have done it. Zero desire from me to go to and be involved in politics. I felt that the Lord called me to do this, and I hear that people say this all the time. So I want to talk briefly about that. I believe that that still small voice, that the Lord still speaks. And the reason I believe it is I read the scripture and I see that he talks about it being the same yesterday, today, and forever. And then I look at it and I see whenever God called Ananias, he said, "Here I am." And then he went to Saul, who was out persecuting Christians, and he became Paul. He wrote so much of the New Testament. We had years of our life that we did something called treasure hunting, where we would pray and ask the Lord for clues, we would write them down, and then we would go out and look for them. And I realize that this may sound crazy. In 5 minutes, I can't explain it all. However, I believe that I hear the Lord, and we walk in step with what it is that he's calling us to do. So whenever I'm saying that I feel that I heard the Lord say this, I can give you hours and hours of testimony as to what I've already seen. And I'm not checking a box when I say Christian. And I'm not saying that stepping in as a businessman and an outsider, this is a big deal. Why would we want to have someone that's an insider, part of the swamp? We've talked about draining the swamp, but we keep sending the same people. I'm just sick of it. I like how President Trump, the greatest president of my lifetime, I don't agree with everything that he says, but he is the greatest president of my life, stepping in with Doge, getting up there and starting to go through draining the swamp. I want to help him. I want to see a lot of these executive orders codified. We've got to make sure that the next administration can't just auto-pen the stuff away. We have to make sure it's time for revival in our government. And the only way that we're going to be able to get a change is if we send someone that understands that the kingdom of heaven is here now, and we get these people that are in a corrupt spot and in compromised positions, we help them come to faith in Jesus Christ. When they come to faith, I believe that they'll get a renewed mind, and then they'll be able to vote on things from that perspective. And we don't have to vote them out at that point. I think that they'll just see that they've done a lot of corrupt stuff and leave. But I realize that that sounds crazy. To a lot of people, I'm not going to be your person, but I just want you to know that this is who I am. The faith side of me, that's from the beginning who I am. And then the business, I built Fat Mat Roofing. Y'all have probably seen some of our stuff even from here. I live north of Abilene. We roof across the district. I'm not somebody that's from, way out another district. I live in district. This is home. My family goes back to the Battle of San Jacinto. Like, Texas is home. I'm a Texan. When I'm around the world doing missions, people ask what country I'm from, I tell them Texas. Thank you. Matt Smith, District 19, U.S. Congress.
Mr. Mayor, you're up. Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for having this event. Thank you for all of you. Looking forward to your questions after. I want to go to Washington because we need people up there who have a deep understanding and experience in what's going on in the world. Military, artificial intelligence, nuclear power. We need people who can go up there and know what's going on and who can work in the system. I'm a decorated Air Force veteran. I'm a retina surgeon. I specialize in the repair of severe military and civilian eye trauma. I'm a farmer. I'm sixth-generation farmer. My wife Jane and I operate our family farms. I have a background in artificial intelligence. I've been working out in Silicon Valley for the last 42 years. I've been working up in Washington for about the same amount of time. I have a background in nuclear physics. I understand nuclear energy. I can understand conventional energy. I understand the needs that we have here in West Texas. The things that scare us most are Sharia law and artificial intelligence. I've had experience in both of those. As I said, I've spent a lot of time in Washington. When Obama announced Obamacare, I got a call the day before from our Congressman Randy Neugebauer, and he and the Speaker of the House invited me to come up and listen to what Obama had to say. They wanted somebody who understood medical economics, understood what Obama was saying. Unfortunately, a young congressman, or fortunately, a young man stood up and said to Obama appropriately, "You lie." Well, the big problem was the next morning he apologized. He should have stood up and said, "Want me to say I'm sorry? I'm sorry, we got a liar in the White House." As I said, I've been out working on artificial intelligence. It's coming into this area. This is a great advantage for us. We have to remember that artificial intelligence is a tool and that we humans are in control. It's not going to control us. It's not going to take over like Hale in 2001, A Space Odyssey, and kill us off. And we're not going to let the bad guys, James Bond type, get a hold of it without us being able to control it. 2 years after the Vietnam War ended, I started the Ocular Trauma Service in the U.S. Air Force. As a result of that, I received the Air Force Commendation Medal for meritorious service. We treated people from all over the world. We built a trauma system that has been expanded and is still going on. My background. I grew up on a small family farm. My dad was a tenant farmer. He quit school at the age of 13 and worked for $1 a day. My mom quit school at the age of 13 and worked for 42 cents a day. And we grew up poor, and that was okay. We didn't realize we were poor. We were happy. We went to church. I attend the small Lutheran church that my family started almost 180 years ago. In Lubbock, we attend the First United Methodist Church. Went on to be involved in 4-H as a young man, and as a result of 4-H, I got introduced to the university. Well, poor little farm boy doesn't know much about the university, but they took me to this big university, and I said, I want to go there. And they had a nuclear reactor, so I said, that looks like fun. I'll start nuclear physics. Well, I worked my way through and ended up in medical school, and then ended up doing surgery, and then ended up developing a whole new area of surgery where we can go inside the eye, take out blood, take out scar tissue. We can fix things that nobody was able to fix before. Somebody gets shrapnel through their eye, a bullet through their head. We can put things back together. After the military, I was going to head over to Afghanistan. Neurai Institute, 1 minute. I didn't end up in Afghanistan, but the next year I was the first foreigner invited to do surgery in the People's Republic of China. I've worked in a total of 10 VA medical centers as a consultant. I've been a professor in 7 medical schools. I've worked in 5 major medical centers overseas. I'll go to Washington and I'll represent you with courage. We will get things done. And we will make sure that we do not have Sharia law or any other foreign laws in this country. We will unleash the power of agriculture, American agriculture, and American energy production. We will open up our resources. We will use our timber. We will use our metals. We'll mine and release our energy. And we will produce the greatest economy the world has ever seen. Thank you. I look forward to your questions. God bless.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Folks, why don't we take a 10-minute break and do what you need to do at that point. And then when we come back, this forum is yours now. You ask the questions, okay? Nice thing about this, all the cards you get in the mail of these people, now you can put a face to it. Anyway, yeah, the drinks, for those who haven't wandered around yet, the drinks are in the fellowship hall next door. So there's drinks and snacks and stuff like that. Please feel free to grab it. What time is it right now? 7:20. Let's be back here by 6:30. Yeah, correction. As you were, 7:30. And we'll make this happen again, okay? Thank you, guys. All right, folks. Let's get back in our positions, and we'll get this thing rolling again. All right, here's the deal. Audience, you ask the questions. Do me a favor, though. Raise your hand. I'll come to you with the mic, okay? Because it won't be heard well on the recordings. All right? Now, you ask the question of any particular candidate you want. The candidate will be given 5 minutes to respond. If you have another question for another candidate, you can do it, assuming somebody else has not raised their hand to ask a question, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's on you right now. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask the gentleman that just spoke. I'm sorry, by the way, I'm new to Texas. I'm from Arizona, so. Thank you. Yeah, I view it that way. So that's part of my ignorance of your name. Would you give me your name again, sir?
Donald Banks.
Donald. Mr. Banks. So a couple of things you mentioned about West Texas, you know, some areas of growth or things that we want to preserve here are agriculture and data centers or AI. So both of those.
What was your first comment before AI?
Data centers.
Data centers. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So as I'm sure you're aware, both of those industries use a tremendous amount of water. How do you view that as kind of a conflicting situation where you can't throw your support behind both, or if you do, how do you square that?
Well, what the water that's used, what it's doing is it's cooling. They have to generate huge amounts of electricity to run these operations, because everything runs off of electricity. Just like your cell phone runs off of electricity. Earlier cell phones got warm, the earlier computers had big fans in it, and as our technology has developed and we've made these circuits smaller and smaller, they require less cooling, and they're better designed so they self-cool. But with the huge amount of energy that's used in these data centers and in AI, you have to use both air cooling and you have to circulate water through to cool it, because you have to run these at the same temperature. Just as your body runs at about 98.6, that stays at that level. Your temperature goes down, your body doesn't work very well, and you're going to die if it goes down too low. If your temperature goes up too high, you're going to start going in convulsions, getting seizures, and you're going to die. So the human, or all life, has to work within a certain temperature level, and just as our machines, our automobiles have radiators on them to keep the engine cool. If that radiator hose breaks, your engine's going to stop in just a couple minutes. So with AI, we've got to keep it cool. Now the question is, how do we get the heat out of that water? The traditional way are these big cooling towers that we see at power plants, nuclear power plants, where you're running air through there and you're taking the hot air, the hot material, and you're cooling it down. The cheap way of doing it is just taking fresh water out of the ground, running it through, and then putting it out in the stream. You know, that doesn't work. We've got the technology where we can take this water and we can cool it down and we can recirculate it back. I believe that's what's going to happen up at Fermi. I believe that's what's happening out in Abilene. But water is precious. We've got some fresh water here. We've only got about 30 years of groundwater left for our ag. So we have to find new ways of getting water there. One is we're going to start bringing water in from elsewhere. The other is capturing water. We've done an exceptionally good job of that in Lubbock and some of the other areas here in Texas. Far, far better than the fools out in California. We're very much familiar because my wife's family settled out there in the 1880s. We've been farming out there. We were blessed with a good supply of water, but we need to find new water. There's brackish water about 10 to 15,000 feet down that we can desalinize. The whole Gulf of Mexico is filled with water. If you've been to Israel, they do a remarkable job. Israel blooms, the desert blooms. They desalinize the water, they take the salt, they put it on barges, they sell it to the Russians, and the Russians use it on their road in the wintertime. But we've got plenty of people to the north here we can sell salt to. So we've really got an unlimited supply of water in the world. That's going to be one of the things that we have to go after in the next. Your question's excellent because that's one of the things we have to go after in this century is producing water and producing plentiful supplies. We're conservatives. We don't say, woe is me, we're running out of water. We say, what's the opportunity to produce more water? Did I cover the question, or is there another part? Okay, what? It's a closed system, just like on your automobile. You've got a closed radiator system. You don't have to keep adding water to that unless you've got a leak in the hose. It's a closed system. And as we grow in ability and knowledge on this, I believe they're going to use more and more closed systems where you use the same water, you take it out, you cool it down, a cooling tower, or may even have to generate more energy and use refrigeration to cool it down. But we can use it on a limited basis. And that's why it's so very important that the federal government be oversight over this. If we get every community, every state, and we get rules, we get California or New York putting rules together for this, we're going to be in big trouble. So I think it's going to be in good hands. I think we have good people. We have no choice. I was out in Silicon Valley working last fall, and they started telling me about these 4 mainframe computers that were together doing this AI project. And they told the computers what to do. Well, the computers did that for a while. Then all of a sudden they stopped and started doing something else. Well, the humans got concerned, and they said, you're not doing that right. You got to do it different. Well, what the computers do, they developed their own computer language. So the humans couldn't do anything, and they pulled the plug, and that's when Elon Musk and the other folks went to President Trump and said, look, we got trouble. We got to shut this down for 6 months. Well, we couldn't because the Chinese are getting too far ahead of us. Number one, we've got to keep ahead of the Chinese. We've got to get so far ahead of them. Thank you. I'll be happy to chat with you or later on this, okay? Thank you.
My name is Doug Robinette, but this is a question for everybody, and it's a raise your hand response. I actually have 2 questions. And for those that are not the candidates and you are representing them, if you know, please answer. If not, cross your arms as though you don't know, and we can all interpret it appropriately, okay? First question is, which one of you, or not, which of you support term limits less than 12 years? Okay, thank you. And I would apply it to the Senate as well, 12 years, period. You would, okay.
12, maximum 12.
Maximum 12. Okay. The other question is, would you or your candidate support a convention of the states to make changes? Okay, so we have 2 that don't know. Okay, great. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
My name is Will Hobley. And thank you, sir, for for your questions because it make it easy on me. Who, if any of you, support federalized elections? I guess you can raise your hand if you do.
I think that question went to all of you. So if somebody wants to come up and address that, that'd be great.
Who trusts the Trump administration to run their elections? Show of hands. Who would trust Donald Trump to run it? I think they do a pretty good job. Who would trust the Biden administration? We didn't have federalized elections and we got cheated. So that's a pretty nuanced question that you asked, but it is one that a discussion we need to be having. Texas, I can tell you as a county commissioner, I've had to look through voting laws, changes in voting laws, every crazy idea that ever came out of Austin on different things. And I can tell you what worked and what didn't. Mailing everybody over 65 a ballot, nope, opened us up to fraud. That was a big problem. We had people going to the nursing homes, filling them all out. Oh, you got dementia? No problem. Here's who you're voting for. We got you taken care of. That happened in Texas. That's why we don't do that. But your state elections, let the states run their elections as they see fit, okay? Your federal elections, because here's the thing, it's not fair to Texas to have to be in the same election with Arizona, who has problems. It's not fair for us to be in there with, what was that movie, was it 10,000 Mules or whatever it was? Where was it they were packing the ballot boxes? 2,000 Mules, yeah, they're just finding ballot boxes. Oh, look, we found another one that supports. And the 10,000 votes in here, and they're all for one candidate. That's absolute nonsense. So it's not fair at the federal level for us to have to, in a state where we do work hard to try to have fair elections, to have to deal with another state that doesn't. When you get to that federal level, if you want to enforce some federal rules on how the election can be performed, how the ballots can be counted, I completely agree. But let's jump back to 2000. Y'all remember Chads? Pregnant Chads? Y'all remember hanging Chads? Before all LGBT couldn't figure out what bathroom to go to, pregnant Chads. I mean, we had that little problem we had in Florida down there. The federal government got all involved in that. They jumped all over it. You know what happened? They dumped millions of dollars into solving that election problem in Florida. They still had punch cards when they were done. 2004, they were still using punch cards. They didn't fix anything. But that's about right for a government solution, if you ask me. So at the national level, yes, you can do that. At the state level, let the states decide how they do it. Well, this is the United States. The states should be the ones in charge, really. Not the other way around. So, thank you.
All right. So, I think what's important to look at is that any time that we just hand the federal government unadulterated power, it's going to get abused. When you look at the Biden administration and the things that they were going for, you had 1,542 people that were arrested for protesting a stolen election, and then now Fulton County, Georgia, has just had over 700 boxes of material seized to come back in. Now, my father is not only in the movie 2,000 Mules because we were working on Maricopa County, but I traveled and have gone to the state of Wisconsin to work on the audits that are against a Republican by the name of Robin Voss, who is hiding voter rolls. Now, the first arrest from that investigation has now come out. We finally have sent somebody to prison for a very, very long time over that ordeal. But when you look at the way that the federal government will just completely destroy the election system, that's why it has to be to the states. But the way that we fix all of this across the board for our federal elections is we need one day to vote. It can be a national holiday. That way everybody's off. Nobody has an excuse not to get to a polling center. Paper ballots, voter ID, in English, no machines, and we make sure that we can have a recount anytime that we want. So one of the biggest issues that we have right now is that, like in Fulton County, Georgia, their elected government over there just went up and said, we're not going to allow an audit. We're going to hold on to all of these ballots. Nobody's allowed to view them. How dare you question who we put into office, okay? In order to get a federal judge to sign off on a warrant for the FBI to go in to that county, it had to be concrete proof evidence of either fraud, delegation of fraud, money laundering, or RICO. There's your answer. We strip all the power down from the feds, give the power back to the people. That's where we need it, with us, with the normal people, the farmers, the teachers, the firefighters. And then give us the accountability systems to go in and double check that with the audits. And I have seen many, many of the votes all across the state. And I'm really hoping that Maricopa County is next. I hope they hit them tonight to see what's over there, because I know what was going on in Maricopa. It's the reason I went to the Capitol, to speak up. And I know what happened in Fulton, and I know what happened in Michigan, and we know what happens in California and New Mexico and everywhere else that there's a blue state that goes across, because without voter ID, without knowing and only an American getting able to vote and own land and those type of things here, we'll always have a fraudulent system. No mail-in ballots. We have to get rid of all that. Power back to the people at the state level, and then we're good. Thank y'all.
Of course, any of y'all can answer this. I think I look around the room and I see some aged people, kind of like me. You know, we hear a lot about Social Security. It's going broke, 2030. You know, that date just keeps moving closer. You hear all these ideas. I mean, nobody's really put forth a solution that I've been able to see. And I just, you know, I don't know what y'all's thoughts are. I'm not currently drawing Social Security, but I'm within a year of it, year and a half. My mother's 92 years old drawing Social Security. Fortunately, she's able to maintain her lifestyle. But I know a lot of people aren't. I mean, it's month to month. And I just kind of wonder what your idea might be about how to solve Social Security, keep it solvent. Or do we need to go to a totally different plan? I don't know what the answer is.
So the health care plan I mentioned will help take care of that. 75% of the government spending is mandatory. It's made up of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Our government's going broke, $40 trillion in debt. They overspend by $1.6 trillion a year. It costs us $1 trillion a year just to service our debt. That's another thing they've deemed to be mandatory. And they only bring in the revenues right at $5 trillion is all they do. And they don't have a solution other than raising your taxes or telling you can't be on Social Security by extending the number of years, you know. Of course, I think life expectancy went up this year from 72 to 79, but they were already talking about maybe we'll move Social Security to 70 and give you 2 years, you know, of retirement, which is ridiculous. You pay in your whole life, you never get it back. So with my health care plan, we're going to extend this out. And instead of taking our tax dollars and sending it to these insurance companies who've increased their rates by 200% so they can cheat us all out of our money, the government's going to keep that money in the government. Now, they're going to have to pay when somebody's sick. They're going to have to take care of stuff. But I'm guessing your mom's on Medicare, right? So when she goes to the hospital and she needs a MRI, let's say, they don't charge her like they would me. If I go to the hospital, it's $1,500. But if I'm on Medicare, $750. They'll take that $750. Not that the doctor's trying to cheat the patient, but the doctor's trying to cheat the insurance company. The insurance companies are what's wrong. They're hitting us on one side, they're hitting the doctors and the hospitals on the other side. That's the problem. So we're taking them, with my plan, we take them out of the picture. They're not there anymore, and if they want to be there, they're going to lower their rates to match the government rate. Now, if you read my plan or see my flyer over there, if you read the back of it, I tell everybody I'm a Jeffersonian Democrat. The government that governs least governs best. That's what he said. Well, this is contrary to that. And the reason it is because the government broke it. The government has to fix it. You told me how old you are, so I know you can remember the days when you used to get for $50 you could get car insurance. What happened? The government said, oh no, you've got to have car insurance. What happened? They increased it 4 or 5 times. That's what's happened with health care. And I've heard some of my opponents here say, well, the government's got to get out of health care. They need to be out of health care. I would love for them never to have started, but since they've ruined it, it's up to them to fix it. And if you just had 150 million people decide to use this new health care insurance that we're going to offer them. If you're under 65, you can buy it. I don't know why they wouldn't, because I can guarantee you the insurance companies are not going to come down immediately. You're going to have large companies. You're going to have businesses that are going to sign on to this thing because their employees are unhappy that they're having to pay more out of their checks just to get health care insurance. At 150 million, you're talking about bringing in roughly $2 trillion a year is what you'll bring in. Now, like I said, some of that money's got to go back out because you're going to have sick people. You've got people on Medicare that are going to have to be taken care of. But a lot of people are like me. I pay $800 to $1,000 a month, and I never go to the doctor. So that's just that money coming into them every month. The problem is we've got to have some oversight because you know as well as I do what they've done to Social Security. They've robbed it, and we don't want them to do that with this health care system. But they've never earned money. All they've ever known is that I'm going to tax you for the money you earn, and I'm going to bring it in, and then I'm going to spend it on whatever I want. With my tax reform, we're going to fix all this fraud that's going on, and everybody in this country is going to start paying. Now, I've had some pushback on that, but it's not a new idea. Ted Cruz ran on it back in 2016. Flat federal sales tax. It doubles the tax base. Now, somebody said a while ago that Trump was the best president we've ever had. I disagree. Ronald Reagan's the best president we've ever had. And Reaganomics worked. Trickle-down theory worked because, yes, he gave breaks to the rich people, but what did they do? They put people to work and the tax base grew. That's why it worked. Sorry.
Thank you, everybody, for your questions. To your question on Social Security. You know, we became the richest nation, the country with highest GDP in 1871. And we have been the richest nation ever since, 155 years consecutively. So 1935 is when we passed the Social Security Act. It is that our country is rich enough where when you're working in the workforce, you know, you set aside some percentage into Social Security, so once you retire, you have income to survive on. Same with Medicare and Medicaid, that our nation has enough power and finances to take care of the indigent, the underprivileged, and to have income after retirement. So I'm going to share a long-term solution to this, long-term impact of this is, you probably have been hearing this for almost a year now, reciprocal tariffs. I wrote a book on reciprocal tariffs last year. So on Liberation Day, April 2nd, 2025, when President Trump announced it, and even when he was a candidate, when he mentioned reciprocal tariffs, I've been researching it. It's one of my favorite topics. So my book is called America First Again, and the subtitle is How President Trump's 2025 Reciprocal Tariffs Will Impact the U.S. Economy in the Long Run. So in that, President Trump talks about, in the book I talk about, which, you know, blends with what President Trump has proposed, is we have a level playing field. Instead of outsourcing, we have reshoring. Our manufacturers, our steel manufacturers, automobile manufacturers, they manufacture within the United States. And once they do that, not only it creates more jobs, but economic prosperity in the long run. Also, other nations who have been taking advantage of us, first term of President Trump's United Nations budget, we were paying 33% of it. That's unfair to taxpayer dollars here. So the reason I'm sharing the reciprocal tariff way is this helps restore and make our economy stronger in the long run, reduces our trade deficit. Right now, we are a $31 trillion economy, and our debt is $38 trillion. And we have already started seeing the impact. So ever since he announced, we have $9 trillion US dollars pledged into our economy. So once you dig deeper into these reciprocal tariffs, not only will we have a level playing field with other nations that we charge them same tariffs which they charge us. At the same time, all this money being invested, generated. In fact, India, day before, signed a $500 billion deal with the United States as part of reciprocal tariffs to invest in the United States. So when our president and our government talks about utilizing that money, that also includes, in the long run, to fund those programs. For example, Social Security. So I believe in a long-term solution to it. And in the book, I have, the term I have given is Patriot Premium. And a lot of businesses had to pay a little higher price initially who were doing businesses in the United States. But again, due to outsourcing, due to our bad economic policy, especially during Biden administration, a lot of our fellow Americans, especially in the Midwest, they not only lost their jobs and livelihoods, those towns are ghost towns now. And slowly, with reciprocal tariffs, they're reviving. So I'm pretty confident in the long run that will take care of Social Security and similar other situations as well. Thank you.
You know, representing Abraham, I can't make any campaign promises, but I can tell you what I've seen from him. It's kind of an inside joke on the campaign trail, but I like to call him a policy nerd. Everywhere we go, he brings his notebook with us, and we're meeting with the people of the community, and he's writing down the issues. Just this morning, we were meeting with the South Plains Food Bank, and we're learning about how the federal government, in order to receive funding from them, they require them to feed children a certain way. Down in Abilene, meeting with the firefighters there, and he was telling us some of the issues that they have with the government funding and government oversight, and he's writing down those issues. So whenever it comes to, Abraham has stated multiple times on the campaign trail that whenever he's thinking about policy and about what the decisions he's making, he's not going to be getting his advice from the multi-million-dollar think tanks. He's going to be getting his advice from the people who actually affected the issues. Whenever he was working with the Trump administration and they were drafting policy that affected single mothers, what his job was is he, as a surrogate, he brought single mothers from West Texas up to the DC White House and had them speak about their issues in front of President Trump. So he's the person who, I can't make any promises about policy. What I can promise you is that he has the know-how and the ability and the will to represent you and your beliefs when it comes to Social Security. He probably has it in his notebook in a separate segregated folder, all organized like he does. And he's the one who will go into the White House or go into the Capitol and be able to represent your needs.
Your question was about Social Security, was that correct? Okay, so a couple of things that's going to happen. First off, you need to just get in Social Security altogether. And let me tell you why. Back in the Reagan administration, don't forget how we did beat the communists. We borrowed from Social Security, pulled that money out. Government did it again. It's been done again. Social Security is nothing but IOUs. That money is your money. That money is the money of Americans. Social Security is also a giant Ponzi scheme. If you set up something like Social Security today, you would be in prison sitting next to Bernie Madoff. Oh, I'm sorry, never mind. He's dead. But anyways, it is a scam. It always was. It is just a piggy bank there for the government to pull out of. That's what's happened for years. The whole thing needs to go away. But the problem is that Americans like yourself were promised something. So if you've got grayer hair than I do, or less hair than I do, and I'll give some of you a run for your money, the Social Security will be there for you. What you were promised is still going to be there. But we're going to have to draw the line at a certain age. It's probably going to be my age group, and if it is what it is, that's fine. We've got to move on and stop doing that. Just in the process, does the federal government have enough money to pay it out? Yeah, we do. We gave Ukraine last year $185 billion. We can cover Social Security, but the madness has to stop. Where at some point, you've got to pull the cord on this thing and say, okay, enough is enough. We're going to move forwards with that. Now, do you want to have some sort of system? Actually, you know what? Scratch that. We shouldn't have any sort of system. Let us set up our own retirement. Our great-grandparents did it. Well, let's see. My great-grandparents did, depending on your age. We used to take care of ourselves. We took care of our families. This whole idea started with Social Security, and then it turned into Medicare, and it turned into Medicaid. All of this stuff is designed to get us dependent on government. That is how you slowly shift America into socialism and then into communism. That's what this always was. You create government dependency, and then eventually, wasn't it Khrushchev that said that, we don't have to defeat America. We'll just spoon feed you socialism until the nation falls into our hands like rotten fruit. I mean, that's the history lesson that I've learned. But in the program, pick a spot and cut it off right there. But we do have the money to fully fund the people that were promised that. It's probably going to stop with my generation. I'm 43, but thank you.
So we have to stop the fraud. We have to stop all of the government waste. We have to stop the problems. Like my bucket, we have holes in our system. If we had politicians that could not get reelected if they didn't balance a budget, give us 5 to 7 years and let's see how much smaller our government is. The problem is people are getting rich off of going to Congress, going into DC, going to Austin, and this is disgusting. It's not what we voted for. That's not why our founding fathers fought. We didn't sign the Declaration of Independence so that they could go and get rich off of the backs of people paying taxes and being lied to and having promises that this is going to be here forever. I look at my kids right here. I would be foolish if I thought that Social Security was going to be here for them. What happens for us? Do I keep paying in? We have to come up with the solution to this. And like Jason's saying, it's time that we have adults that stop pretending like there's not a problem. This is a real problem. We can't have people in a season of life that it's expected. We have to still be able to fund that. But come on, we're wasting stupid money. There's contracts that shouldn't be out there. We should cut the red tape so that our farmers and our oil producers, our people can actually compete with other countries instead of having to pay twice what it cost in Brazil for inputs. I think that we are some of the hardest working people in the world. If you give an American, especially a West Texan, the ability to compete on a level playing field, we're going to make it happen. And we take care of ourselves too. We take care of others. We're so generous. Y'all, we don't need the government telling us what to do. We don't need them overreaching and taking our money. We don't need them funding the next Ponzi scheme. We need to have the smaller government. We need to get away from the corrupt the money schemes that are going on. And we need to get back to a revival in our government. We have people that have capitalized on the broken system, and whenever you have sin in there, it's just going to continue to make a web that's nasty, and stuff's going to keep getting caught in there, and it's going to clog stuff up. When people get that renewed mind that I'm talking about, we'll be able to look at this, because I believe that God has answers to any problem that we're going to face. I don't think that this is too big of a problem. I just think that we need to be able to put Him first, look at things through the lens of Scripture, the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, look at the Declaration of Independence, and be able to make our decisions after looking at it through these lenses. He created the heavens and the earth. He created, every day He paints the sky for us. There's a solution out there, and I'm committed to working through the kingdom of heaven, working with people in government to make sure that we have a good answer for us. Thank you.
All right, so with Social Security, what we have to do is we have to create competition. We have to get the money out of the hands of the feds. If you ask any banker about the allocations of Social Security, that with what they could do with the money, oftentimes a high-yield savings account will beat out what the earnings are going to be at the end of the year. When you create competition, you create interest rates. What we're fighting against with Social Security is compound interest. And if you don't know what compound interest is, it's either working against you or it's really working for you. So what happens is whenever there's a surplus with government, they borrow against it, they take it out, and they stutter transgender geckos in Somalia, whatever they're going to do to allocate that money out. But what we have to do is we've got to get it back into the private. We have to get it here. We got to get it back with us. So that's part of my plan, is not with just Social Security, but lots of government funding programs, generating competition. Any, like Amarillo National Bank, Lubbock National Bank, all these credit unions around here, they would love to have that money. Why? What is that going to do for us and the benefit for District 19 that it would do versus anywhere else? Well, the government's going to go and waste it. If it's an out-of-state policy, then the money's going to go somewhere else. But if we create competition at the local area to say we're going to give each individual their earnings, there are going to be bankers and lawyers fighting after this money like it's nobody's business. And then you're going to see interest rates come up. You know, give us the trust and the garnishment of whatever you have inside of your Social Security and see. The second thing that we have to do is we have to create a full level transparency about what happens. Who in this room knows every single benefit of what they're going to get with Social Security? Nobody does. Because the laws change, everything goes out. I don't even fully understand the ramifications of Social Security, and my parents are knocking on the door of it. My dad swears he's not, but he is. So this is one of the things that we have to do. Why? Because transparency drives down prices on everything else. So if we have compound interest working for us, and then we have transparency across the board that's also working for us, we're going to be lowering care coverages. We're going to be able to put more into us, into the people that have gone through, that have earned it. And I think eventually, once we take that money away from them and the compound interest works for us, that little bit of extra is going to help fund the rest of it. We're not just talking about quantity of life anymore. We're talking about quality of life whenever we look at Social Security now. Because if compound interest, transparency is all coming here, those tax dollars, because they're here in the local district, when we're putting them back into our banks, that's going to affect our schools, that's going to affect our roads, because all of that compound interest is going to be saved up and spent in this community. But there's other things to it, because we're going to have to open up different, forums. We're going to have to break up monopolies and healthcare coverage systems. Like, there's so much that goes on against the elder community that it is it's a nationwide problem. How often do we see people going to prison because of, welfare fraud, because of Social Security fraud? They sign people up. Putting it at the state level and giving us the power, that lets us go after those convictions as well from the state level, and it allows us to monitor in our district. And then by it being here, moving all of our benefit down here to what we have, then we get a vote on it. How about we put up a vote instead of letting people decide, somewhere far away in Washington, D.C., where, they're, taking all these different approaches, taking the money every which way. How about a vote? How about a real actionable item that we can do right here at the local level that involves our senior care? Because then we can differentiate from what Washington, D.C. wants, and we can start putting the wants and needs of those that are here. It's their money. Let them have it. Let them do what they want to. Create the competition, put up full transparency, and I think we'll have a better system all the way around. That's part of my plan. Thank you.
Well, Tom's staff probably just fell over when they saw me get up thinking I'm going to talk about Social Security. I would like to ask your permission to go back to your question because it's near and dear to my heart, and I do know that Tom and I parallel on this. Abilene has the military base. Tom has a son in the military. He knows the importance and how important that is, that area. Lubbock has Texas Tech. We know how important higher education is. But Lubbock and Abilene aren't immune. Every town smaller, down to the smallest community, This district lives and dies by taking care of its natural resources. Whether it is water, whether it is cattle, whether it is oil and gas. I don't care if you're a teacher, if you own a small convenience store, if you're a doctor, if you're a roofer, your occupation in this district is tied to our natural resources. Tom knows that, he understands it. Why are the AI companies coming here? Cheap land and cheaper labor. That's not local money, building those. There are other places in the country that have an abundance of water that can utilize that. We have got to be the best stewards we can of what we have here because our water is finite. We need it for our urban areas. We need it for our agriculture, for our cattle industry, because we all live and die by that. Tom is a big proponent of taking the farm bill. I've heard him say it before, and I fully believe it. Our farm bill is not for the 2% that are involved in production agriculture. It's for the 98% of you that aren't, so that you don't have to be doing what you don't want to do. He also fully believes that our farm program, that our agriculture, that our natural resources should be part of our national security program. If we don't have a safe and reliable source of food and fiber, we are at everyone else's mercy. That should be part of our national security. And so I know where Tom stands on the use of our natural resources in this district, because that takes care of all of us in one way or another. Does that answer a little better, maybe?
We'll have time for this last one, okay?
Good. I want to address your question on Social Security because it's a big problem. And my patients and people I know on Social Security, if you live on Social Security, you can't make it. Pharmaceutical bills alone can eat up a huge amount of that. If you put housing and a car and everything else on it, it's not good. Why is the problem? Well, it's a Ponzi scheme set up by our government. The money goes in and the government spends it, and they put an IOU in. There's simple solutions for these things. President Trump showed us one of these very simple solutions a couple of weeks ago when he set up this account for newborns. $1,000 in. When they hit 18, the average person with today's economy will have over $80,000 because that money is being invested in the U.S. economy. Same thing as if somebody puts money in a retirement account, that goes into stock funds, that goes into bond funds, and those things produce. The U.S. stock market has gone up 10 to 11% every year for the last 100 years. Easy to check. When many of us were young, the stock market was below 5,000. Look where it is now, pushing 50,000. So if that money is taken and invested, and other countries have done this very successfully. Chile has done that. Their retirement people are getting about 8 times what our retirement people are, because that money wasn't just put into the government spent it, it was invested. Same thing with Medicare. Why are we spending so much money? Well, the government has a printing press. States don't have a printing press. Healthcare, retirement, all of these things should have originally been with the state. They should never have been started, but they were started. Government has an obligation to the American people. The people who are in the system now, we need to take care of them. We need to take care of them until they pass on. But we can bring in other innovative programs where people with their Social Security funds retire and are rich and have significant money. We're the richest country in the world. All of these people, all the people in this country should have the opportunity to retire with a large amount of money. And Trump has shown us this with the fund that he's put together for these children, and people can put more money in. Same thing in health care. How do you get the price of insurance down? Well, we see Every day we see dozens of advertisements. Buy your car insurance and only buy what you need. As a surgeon, looking at how patients are taken care of, one of my patients gets a problem, goes into the emergency room at night, somebody's going to do a $4,000 or $5,000 MRI or CT scan on that patient, just to be sure. Why are they doing that? Well, to protect the patient, but more so to protect themselves in the hospital from the trial lawyer. Trial law is good. It protects the people, but it gets out of control and causes problems and causes prices to go up. Why has our car insurance gone up? Well, because of the litigation process that's out of control. Healthcare is phenomenally bad in that way. People practice defensive medicine. I was fortunate. I'm a good surgeon. I've never had to practice defensive medicine. I just do what's right, and I don't think my malpractice insurance was ever over $800 a year in my entire career. But most people have to be afraid. So we need to set up the ability for the American people to have health care savings accounts. We, the people, put our money in. If we have an employer, the employer puts the money in. If we work for government or we're military, the military puts the money in. But there is money that is there, that is real. It's pre-taxed. Somebody passes away, they can pass it on to their heirs, pre-tax. And they can use that money for their basic health care and choose what they want. If they go in the hospital with a migraine headache, they're looking to get something to stop the pain of the migraine headache. Doctor says, I'm going to do CT scan on you and charge you $5,000. No, I don't need that because I've had these migraine headaches 8 times before. I don't have a tumor in my head that's going to bleed. I'm not fixing to have a stroke. I'm going to make that decision. And we buy insurance for what we can't afford. If we get hospitalized, we buy insurance to cover that hospitalization. That was originally what Blue Cross Blue Shield was for catastrophic medicine. And we get care for catastrophic problems that come in. And insurance is to cover the bad problems, whether it's provided by the government, whether it's private. Did I run out of time? Thank you all. I'll be happy to stick around and chat more. God bless.
Can I answer the water question?
There you go.
Okay, sir, as far as the water and the agriculture, it is definitely a big thing. Where we are right now, so I live out north of Abilene, and there's a data center that's out there right by one of our properties. With it, there's big problems, but there's also big impact for the businesses in the area. There's a lot of good that's coming in. One of the things that people are concerned about is the amount of water. And it's something, what we're about to see is I've talked to other developers and people that are coming to us about our property from around the country. They see that this area, we're about to be in data center alley. Like there's going to be a lot of these whenever you have the large corporations that are coming in wanting 100,000 square foot of storage space. Like they're big properties, and they're saying that it's going to be in this entire area. And what happens is not only for the use of the building, but anytime you're building these large construction sites, they use a lot of water for dust control, for making sure that they have proper compaction during the building process. And so there's a lot of water that's going to that. There's also whenever you get into the closed loop system. So your concern is very real. And I think what we have to look at, my view on it, it comes from more of the entrepreneurial side. The first thing that we have to do is we have to fix the leaks. Where are the problems? Before we put more water in, we have to fix any areas that it's leaking out. And I think a lot of times there's going to be government corruption in there that we just follow the money. Where's the money coming from? And we're going to see where some of those holes are. And then we have to figure out how we fill the bucket. How do we fill the bucket? And I would say that a lot of this is going to come from creative ways, like as Dr. May was saying with the desalinization, or other ways. There's the produced water from oil sites that there's a little bit that can come there. There's also things like from the Missouri River. If we were able to get water piped into our area, how much better would this be for us to be able to have enough water down the road? Because let's face it, not only for our ag, but there's going to be additional data stuff coming in. What we see, especially as Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has already said, AI is national security. When the Secretary of War is saying, let's put data centers on government properties, they understand that this is a huge deal. We're going to have more and more, and it's going to keep becoming, putting more of a demand on not only the water, but the power. And as we saw a few years ago with snowpocalypse, we went down. In the Abilene area, we lost power for a few days. I'm so grateful that we didn't this time. But as these data centers keep popping up, are we going to be able to produce enough oil and gas? Will we be able to power them through the turbines and those generators? I think that we have to be very serious about it and understand that the technology is most likely going to come from the molten reactors. And so we have all of this, the water talk, but we have to also understand the power talk. And these are conversations that we're going to face in whoever it is that gets elected. We're going to have the mind in that area and not afraid to fill the bucket after we plug the holes. Does that kind of help? Thank y'all. Oh, one last thing. We also are donating our salary into the community into a nonprofit, because I am not going there to get rich. I'm sick of what I see when it comes to the political games and everyone making more than they should, and we've already signed the term limits pledge. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for showing up. We got a little late start, but I think this went well because it achieved the goal. People actually being able to interface with their candidates. Candidates, I thank you very much for coming and taking the time. The one thing I did notice from all these gentlemen up here was that they were putting God in this thing. So the challenge to any one of you, that whoever wins this, is to help put God back in our government. Okay? All right. Thank you again. Gary? Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll share with Wayne one of the things that I noted about each one of your presentations, when you were speaking from the heart, is that you mentioned God and that God was vastly important in your lives. And it made me think about the spies that were sent into Israel, or the land of Canaan, before they crossed the Jordan River. 8 of them came back scared to death because of all the giants and of all the power that they were about to meet, and they were afraid. There was 2 that stood firm, Joshua and Caleb. And I want you to know that you're not going to go to Congress and change everything yourself. My challenge to you is have God right there with you. As you cross the Jordan, whoever is elected, as you cross the Jordan and go to Washington or go to whatever your elected position is, have God by your side. Be strong and courageous, just as a charge from Joshua and Caleb was to the people as they forged across the Jordan into the land of the promised land. That's the first thing. The second thing is like to it. The state of Texas, in the past legislative session, enacted a law whereby if you do not have your audits completed, this is to municipal governments, cities, counties, If you do not have your audits up to date within 180 days of the end of your fiscal year, you have no choice but to adopt the no new revenue tax rate. Y'all familiar with that? Why can't we do that in Washington? If we don't stay within our budget, every one of us in this room has a budget that we have to abide by. If we don't, the only choice is to go into debt. And that's exactly what our government has done. We don't pay attention to our budget. We create a budget, but we don't live by it. Always the talk is that we are this much deficit spending. Deficit spending adds to debt. I challenge you, every single one of you, if you are elected to office, do something to stop the deficit spending. Will you do that for me? Thank you.
Hey, Gary? Yes. Will you open this with a word of prayer? Yes. I'm not a candidate, so I can ask this. Would you pray for each one of these men and close us in prayer, please?
I certainly would. I'd be honored to. Lord, what a good evening we've had here, where we are able to speak as your children. We're able to speak as one. We're able to speak as West Texans who have no trouble speaking their mind. In that way, O Lord, we are very much like your children Israel. We have to be convinced. We're willing to put ourselves out, and we're willing to argue. We're willing to fight. And just like Joshua and Caleb, their charge to the people was, be strong and be courageous. Make each one of these men strong and courageous. Make each one of these men seek you first. There is nothing impossible for you, O Lord. You have proven that over and over again. From the conquering of Canaan to Deborah and Barak and facing the Canaanites with the 900 chariots of iron. And how did you solve the problem? It was impossible to them, and you made it rain. And the chariots became mud balls. Lord, you are the answer. Work through these men. Work through each one of us. Work through West Texas to deliver what you want us to do. Give us strength, O Lord. Make us all strong and courageous. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray.